How many of you like to go to a party and enjoy good beer on the weekend? Some of the greatest beers come from Germany, and some of the biggest parties happen in the beer halls there. I was lucky enough to visit the Hopper House many years ago in Munich, Germany, and learn about some of the history. I also read 2 books on the Hopper House, one by Jeffrey Gobb and the other one by Marion Kummerow, as well as finding some of the history on the Hopper House website. Hopper House is one of the most famous beer halls in the world, with a history that is just as good as its beer and food. Today I'd like to tell you about the Hopper House in Munich, Germany. I'm going to discuss the early history, its importance to Munich's community, and its continued popularity and place in the Bavarian culture. The city of Munich is in southern Germany in the state of Bavaria. According to this book on Munich by Jeffrey Gobb, this book right here, back in the 1500s, beer was an essential part of the Bavarian diet, since the water was often contaminated and undrinkable. Wealthy citizens would get their beer from northern Germany, but then some things made it more difficult. Beer prices in the north were increasing. A beer purity law was passed in 1516, stating that all beer in Bavaria had to be pure, only barley, hops, malt, and pure water. Also in 1517, the Protestant Reformation split Germany into 2 parts, the Protestant North and the Catholic South. A lot of the Bavarians didn't want to get their beer from the north anymore. In 1589, Duke Wilhelm V started his own brewery called the Hopper House, or Court Brewery. The famous HB symbol would become known throughout the world. The Hopper House Brewery was located at the Old Court in Munich, and only heavy brown ale was made there. According to the Hopper House website, Duke Wilhelm's son, Maximilian, did not like the taste of the brown beer, so he had a wheat beer brewed. The beer was so good that the demand for the brew grew, and the Duke allowed some of the beer to be sold to the public. He built another brewery at Platzl called the White Hopper House, which only brewed wheat beer. Back then, the Hopper House produced 38,000 gallons of beer per year. The location of the White Hopper House is where the Hopper House in Munich still stands today. In 1806, Napoleon made Bavaria a kingdom, and Duke Max Joseph became King Maximilian I. The king declared that inns and taverns could only buy beer from breweries, not make their own. The demand for the Hopper House beer continued to grow. King Ludwig I opened the Hopper House to the general public in 1828. He had tables and benches placed in the great hall so that every man could come. Over 1,000 people came to fill the large hall. King Ludwig signed his name above the entrance doors. Hopper House quickly became an important gathering place for the people of Munich. In 1852, the ownership of Hopper House was transferred from the kingdom to the state of Bavaria, where it became the People's Beer Hall. At first, beer was self-serve with people lining up to push their mugs underneath a barrel of beer. Toward the end of the 19th century, Hopper House expanded into a full-service restaurant and beer hall capable of holding 2,000 people. It became known for its beer, food, music, and fun. By 1937, the Hopper House became the largest beer producer in the world, and it was attracting visitors from all over the world. Gobb described the large halls of the Hopper House as making it the perfect place for his social and political gatherings. Adolf Hitler's group, the National Socialist German Workers' Party, was formed at the Hopper House in Munich. His strategy of holding meetings in the largest beer halls helped him gain support. For over 20 years, Hitler used the Hopper House to give public speeches. His last speech occurred in 1944, which was shortly before the bomb started falling and Munich Hopper House was severely damaged. Hopper House was restored and expanded in the 1950s and 60s. Tourists continued to visit the Hopper House. As described by Marion Kummerow in her book Hopper House Uncovered, The first floor seating area is called the Schweim and seats 1,300 people. This is where the band plays traditional German music. There is also a quieter beer garden outside. Unfortunately, tourists would often steal steins with HB symbol, something that continues today. In the 1970s, personal beer lockers were installed to hold some regular customer beer mugs. Kumro states that the only way to get one of these lockers today is to inherit it. An important event in Munich's history was the birth of Oktoberfest, which started when King Maximilian held a big party with beer, music, and games to celebrate the wedding of his son, Ludwig. Oktoberfest continues to be an important part of Munich's culture, and the Hopperhaus is only one of the 5 breweries allowed to supply beer for the event. The Hopperhaus in Munich remains the most popular tourist destination in Germany. It has come to represent the Bavarian culture, as written in Gab's book on Hopperhaus' 400th anniversary. The finance minister of Bavaria wrote that the Hopperhaus has become the image carrier of Bavarian culture to the world. Beer is still brewed according to the strict beer purity recipe of 1516. In 1988, Hopperhaus started licensing the beer halls to be open in other parts of the world like Tokyo and Thailand. The first U.S. Hopperhaus was opened near Cincinnati, Ohio, the sister city of Munich. There are several Hopperhaus restaurants around the world. They all bring the tradition of the Bavarian beer, German food, music, and fun to their cities. Now that you know about its early history, its importance to the city of Munich, and its famous beer and food, I hope that you'll visit a Hopperhaus and enjoy the German culture with a new appreciation. Prost.